Tim is with us. He just landed on the phone. I don't know. This is Tim. This is like Tim number 8. So maybe I should give him a new name. Let's see. I hate that these cards don't slide on the against each other. They're like, because of the texture of them. All right, let's go right here. Be true to who you are. Fear will not stop you from shining. So right before I did this, and I was working with a different deck. It was a Path of Shadows. I pulled a card. I pulled Imposter Syndrome, and it really is how I've been feeling. And that's what it didn't want to let me record. I started talking about it, but I was talking about how hard it is for me to, it's really hard for me to see myself as any sort of a channel. Let me take one more of these. Mischief. Exposed and mischief. Just throwing stuff. Exposed and mischief, and I've been feeling like an imposter, but I'm not. I don't even understand why I'm feeling that way. I didn't come on here to be some sort of channel, like some sort of medium. That's not why I came on here. That's not what my intentions are. But my attention keeps being drawn back to the psychic experiences that I've had. Tim is crawling all around. Hopefully that means I'm getting over it. This feeling of being an imposter. It's really not helping me. I suppose it must be. It must be serving some sort of purpose. What purpose might that be serving? Well, I mean, that's obviously coming from the shadow. Perhaps to prevent me from doing this, to keep me small, to keep me isolated in a way, isolated from an online community, from a global community. Now that actually, that is just my personal shadow. What if our shadows are connected to a larger, like, collective shadow, and it's part of this bigger shadow that is like dragging us down collectively? If me doing this threatens that, there's Tim. If me doing this and sharing my experiences in this authentic way, with a level of honesty that requires me to, at least to a certain extent, set aside my own ego, I think that me doing this would threaten any kind of collective shadow. He is a buzzing. He's buzzing. He's hanging out on a bottle of vinegar over here. I used to clean this table. This is promising, though. Fear will not stop you from shining. So even our collective shadow, if I so choose, cannot stop me. Cannot stop me from affecting change. That's empowering. In looking at the background of this photo, it reminds me of the desert. Like a dust, like a rainstorm, how the wind will come in and it'll kick up all this dust, and then the rain will come in and it'll make all that dust settle. I don't know why that matters. Maybe the dust is symbolic of loosely held beliefs that need to go. That have almost no real weight to them. Exposed mischief. That certainly does speak to what we're seeing in the world right now, with world leaders being exposed for the mischief. There's more to come. There's more exposure to come. And look how vulnerable, exposed. They feel vulnerable. That's why they're lashing out. That's why they're starting global conflict. They're vulnerable and they are lashing out to protect themselves, causing mischief. Yeah, it's almost like there's like rubble in the city behind them. You know, like, look at all this, look at all the destruction. Don't pay attention to who I really am, what I'm really doing. Shine, may you be a lighthouse. And then this one says, release, may you lay down your burdens. Yeah, I think this is really a message for me too. It's one of encouragement. That's my coffee. Just to know that with all of this that's going on, all of these things that are intended to distract me, to distract us, and being afraid of all this junk, this junk that's planned as a distraction, it's not going to stop me and others like me from shining our light. There's Tim. He is all around here. May I lay down my burdens, my burden of tapping into that collective shadow that's trying to keep me small, to keep me from shining my light. Personally, I find anger quite motivating. So if I'm struggling to, when I'm struggling to like really push myself to do something, I get mad getting mad works for me. So the more they do this, the more destructive they are. I can use that. I can work with that. I can use that anger to power my light. In some ways, even though it doesn't look like it, what it feels like is that they don't stand a chance. They are experiencing an extinction burst. Radiant geometry. Looks like an iris. It looks like an eye. Pattern, truth, deeper order. What feels chaotic is often a pattern you have yet to see. Yeah. Whatever pattern feels chaotic, all the chaos, the global conflict, if it feels chaotic, perhaps it's because you haven't seen it yet. The fact that it is a predictable distraction. This is textbook distraction from a narcissist. But it feels predictable to me. I'm not saying it's not destructive. It's horribly destructive. What feels chaotic is often a pattern you have yet to see. It also reminds me of addiction. When I was in the middle of, when I was going through my alcohol addiction, it felt chaotic. My behavior kind of felt chaotic. I'm sure it looked that way to other people. But it really was a pattern of self-abandonment in my personal life, but also in a place in my society where I felt capped. I feel like I felt capped in my growth. Like I wasn't allowed to grow past that. And I struggled against it that whole time I was drinking. I was in and out of therapy. Like I made attempts at growing and I was successful. It's not that I just stopped existing as a human being. Like I was a what you call a functioning alcoholic. I still went to work. I went to therapy. I went to school. I grew in other ways. I feel like addiction really stunts our growth. And I'm having a hard time pinpointing exactly where my growth was stunted in my addiction. Tim here. There we go. Up buzzing around. I used it to cope with interpersonal struggle. I could see that it kept me trapped in toxic relationships, and the relationships that I was in, my partners would give me more and more, and I see now that was a pattern of keeping me trapped in that relationship so that I wouldn't get sober and see that I had way more value to offer than that relationship had to offer me. It was intended to keep me small enough to fit in that cage. And my stepfather's actually passed away. So I'm gonna just come out and say that's who I'm talking about here. He definitely was somebody who felt inferior and felt insignificant, like so inferior that he had to keep a child down and belittle a child and make a child feel small and weak so that he didn't feel threatened by that child. So I wasn't allowed to grow as a child because the adults, whatever, in my life felt so insecure that they thought that a child was going to outgrow them. I really feel it's important for me to talk about him, but I don't know if this is, I feel like I should come back to that when it's more relevant here. No, actually it is relevant. I feel like I have a lot to say on that. That's why I'm having these conflicting feelings here. But he liked to keep me in a place of fear so that I couldn't, so that to dim my light, because it triggered him. It triggered his insecurities. The adults in my life made me feel that way a lot. Yeah, they did. Like when I think about myself as a child, like I get this image of like, that's probably really inaccurate, but I get this image of this timid child who, you know, like felt like they weren't good at anything, like they weren't good for anything. Nobody cared about this child. And now as an adult, imagining what a child and an adult would have to be like, both of those individuals, for that to have been my experience. And as an adult, I imagine a child that is so vibrant, an adult that is so fragile that they have to keep that child small. It's almost as if the idea I have of myself as a child, because I can't remember a lot. There's so much I can't remember. But it's almost like the idea I have of who I was in the context of my family was so wrong. Cross of faith. Balance effort with trust and intention with surrender. I make my dreams real. Balancing effort with trust and intention with surrender. Reference co-creating with the universe. You have to show up and participate with the universe. You have to trust that the universe is going to meet you halfway, but you have to get halfway there yourself. And my intention in making these videos is to affect positive change in the lives of other people. But I have to surrender to whatever outcome is in front of me. I have no idea what the outcome is going to be. Heavenly embrace. You will never lose your way, for all paths will lead you back home. My angels guide me. 2 came out there. So my path is to find my way back to myself, I believe. In whatever way, not my path, but my destination. My destination is integration and connection and wholeness, oneness. And regardless of which path I take to get there, I will get there. But my intention matters. I think my intention does matter. Because if you're intending to run from yourself, just like I was when I was in my addiction, well, that's not really a way to find yourself, is it? gifts. The idea that everything is a gift is kind of compelling, that there's opportunity everywhere. I really like seeing my world like that, through that lens, because it helps me find meaning in some of the struggle. Like my struggle with my alcohol addiction, it would be too easy for me to sit here and think of it in terms of me wasting half my life. But I don't want to think of it that way. I don't want to think of it that way at all. Because of that experience, I'm better able to understand what other people are going through having that experience. And there's Tim. Oh, I wish I could stop focusing on Tim. But his presence is welcome, just not in my coffee. But I'm not gonna lie, my addiction helped me through times that I didn't have the coping skills to get through the things that I was experiencing. I mean, I wish it could have been a different way for me. Like, I wish I had, like, if I could just run like this grand scheme of interference in my own life, you know, maybe I would have taken a detour in, but I feel like it would have required a huge pause in my life to go back and learn all of these coping skills that I should have learned as a child that no one modeled for me. And man, I wasn't even aware of it. I really wasn't aware of it. There was just a huge lack of awareness. Maybe in me believing that it couldn't have been a different way, maybe that's just me trying to avoid responsibility for my choices. But I don't know. I mean, I chose the path that I chose. And I don't know, I don't regret it. Like, I don't recommend anybody get involved in that. I wonder if me saying that is triggering for people who are watching, or who are struggling and watching a loved one going through an addiction. Because perhaps they feel like that person who's struggling with that doesn't care how it's impacting the people around them. I can see why that would be hard to hear. My perspective on it, though, is that that's that person's life. And coming from a place where I felt like I had to live my life in a way that when I was younger, I definitely felt like my existence was to regulate someone else's emotions for them. And as an adult, choosing to go down the path of addiction, something about it was kind of like, this is for me, and I'm going to do this regardless of how it's going to make other people feel, because I spent my life worrying about how other people make me feel, and it's my time to choose me. And it wasn't the healthiest thing to do, but I was rebelling against prioritizing someone else's desire to have me be the responsible person for their experience in life, if that makes sense. I think if you're a child who grows up with a parent who has anxiety, and that parent is constantly like making the children or the other people in the home, it doesn't even have to be a child, but making the other people in the home walk on eggshells so that it doesn't trigger their anxiety. That adult is making those other people responsible for their emotions rather than taking control of them and taking responsibility for them. And yeah, alcohol helped me escape that mentally, because even though I was out of it, you know, as an adult, I was out of that role, I was still holding myself in that mental prisoner to that pattern. I was still in the Tim is zooming around. Maybe we're getting somewhere. But the thought of, you know, the thought of my family putting it on me, like, don't you see what you're doing to us? And they never even said that to me, but I think it was in my head. Like, it made me feel angry, and it pushed me further towards doing what was making me feel good, because I was sick of feeling responsible for the way other people felt. So I guess what I'm saying is, if what I'm saying is triggering to anyone, shoot, I don't know. I don't know where the end of that is going. I feel like I shouldn't go there. I shouldn't say shoulds. That's not the purpose of this. That's not what I'm doing. I don't know anybody else's truth. I just know mine. I guess what I'm saying is that I'm a lot more aware now of the impact my drinking had on the people around me. And I'm also aware that my drinking didn't have anything to do with them, in terms of that was my path. I wasn't going down my path and learning my lessons to spite them, in spite of what they probably sometimes thought. Like, they wanted to make my drinking problem about them, and it wasn't. So there really needed to be, you know, an emotional separation. Like, there's enmeshment there for sure. Enmeshment and codependency and enabling that just make all of that like more complicated, that just actually exacerbate the whole situation. My relationships changed when I got sober. We'll definitely be talking about that. I mean, if you're familiar with, you know, addiction and like the process of all of that, then the ways in which it changed won't surprise you one bit. You know, like the problems that come up when the addict decides to start putting themselves first. Because it doesn't feel that way to the other people, because they thought that the addict was always putting themselves first, because they didn't understand that the addict was actually abandoning themselves in their addiction. They were not putting themselves first. I think I'm done. I don't want to go on for another hour about this, because I want to make sure the right thing comes out, and I don't want to just go off about that. I'm going to try to get Tim out of here, because he's a little bit disruptive. He was a little bit disruptive today. I think maybe the next Tim, I will name something else. Until next time.